As you can see, the title is Tracing the Intrusion, Unveiling the Covert Trails of Infostealer Malware. So we'll start off with the agenda. I'll first of all introduce to what information stealers are, then what damage it can do, and then we'll go through a case study of what damage it did already, and then we'll go through Traffers and then their ecosystem, and then their delivery mechanism, how they evolved from being a normal threat actor group to a sophisticated group which is running the actions. Then we'll see the common trends and how attacks are going on, and then also the motivation behind all of this. And finally, we'll see how to be safe from the information stealers. And if you look at the slide, this is very interesting. So it says SEO, so top 5 most dangerous cyber attacks according to SANS. So there are SEO boosted attacks, then there is malvertising, then there is developers as a target. So hackers targeting developers. So, and then there are offensive uses of AI and weaponizing of AI for social engineering. So think about an attack which combines all these in one single one. So those will be the one which information stealers are. And then, so coming up with what information stealer is again. So the name itself says it is created to steal information. And then what enables it? We all save passwords. We all use internet. We all use normal browsers which save cookies. And then there are any other credit card details which you save on your browser. And then you use a lot of softwares, right? Crypto wallets, all these stuff are stored. So yeah, so that enables a need of information stealers for the threat actors. And then what are the capabilities? So capabilities being the malware is packed. So packed in the sense it hides the payload. So whenever static analysis is run, it will not be even appearing because it's packed. And then there are loaders. So loaders are specific types of malware which actually drops different type of information stealers according to the region or area where it is getting executed. Then there are, it has also capabilities of bypassing Windows defenders, AMSI and EDR. So these are not with all the info stealers, but then there are a few which are capable of this. And then basically exploiting CVEs. So every new CV which gets popular, that will be targeted by the malware developer, and they will develop a new malware which can exploit it to gain more information or easier access to the information which is stored in the user. And then basically updated with exfiltrating data from most of the software. So when I say software, we all use a lot of software like Discord, Telegram, and then wallets, cryptocurrency wallets, and then name any app that will be, which is popular. The malware developers will target that and then try to steal information from that. And then basically, when I say what will happen when you get infected. So you can see in the screen that there are multiple things to your right, which is autofill, cookies. So autofills are browser autofills, then browser cookies, then downloads what you have downloaded, and then files exfiltrated. So files are documents or text files or any private keys which you have stored. All these will be exfiltrated. And then history, what you have searched, all this browser history also will be exfiltrated, along with victim information, where they got infected, the victim's IP, the victim's machine ID. All this stuff is exfiltrated by the malware, and along with the software data, as we mentioned. In this, we can see Discord and Telegram. In Discord, they have Discord tokens which can be used to authenticate. And then in Telegram, they have Telegram data, basically your chats, your any social media which you have communicated, all these will be there. And key data also is there. Even though if the Telegram chats are encrypted, key data can be used to decrypt it. And then basically, you can see that victims, all data is exfiltrated. The main reason for this is the threat actors don't want the hassle of social engineering you to bypass 2FA. They have everything in front of you, in front of them, and then they basically exploit with the details what they have. They use this information to mimic your browser and fingerprint and basically they replicate your browser bypassing 2FA, IP-based login, any of these. And then coming to case study. So there is a cyber attack on an organization which was having approximately 30 billion of revenue, which is very huge. And then the threat actor was basically a 16-year-old kid who had minimal skill, but then he did the maximum damage to their reputation. And then basically these information stealers are used by every threat actor. So it could be a small scale threat actor who is doing it for a hobby, or it could be a large scale group like Lazarus. And then this attack actually started with social engineering rather than information stealers, but then I'll show. So social engineered to get the VPN credentials to gain the internal access first, and then he scanned the intranet. Then he discovered a lot of services, but then he didn't have access to them. Then later, for internal access, he basically got this information malware, like infection logs from the marketplace which are sold, and then he basically used them to gain internal access, and then he got access to network shares. So network shares are like your SMB, and then that had some PowerShell scripts. So that PowerShell scripts had embedded admin credentials. So that admin credentials are basically for PAM, which is like manages all your authentications that led access to AWS, G Suite, EDR, and then their HackerOne account. All these got compromised, and then the threat actor just shared that he had access to all these, and then basically it got a big hit onto their reputation. So this is a basic case study of how simple the attack can be, like how easily they can access. It's not simple, but then how easily they can gain access to their network. And then now we'll talk about Trafer Ecosystem. So Trafer is a Russian word for, I think it is a Russian word, but then those are small scale workers who work for a Trafer admin. So Trafer admin are Russian speaking threat actors. So now these Trafer admins are the main threat actor admin who hires Traffers who can be skilled, non-skilled, all people they hire. But then what they do to empower them is they get a malware developer to develop a malware for them. Now the malware developer develops a malware and then shares it across. But then for the payload to be safe, they also use a crypto developer who develops a crypt for you. So cryptor is just packing the payload so that every time the cryptor runs, the malware will have a new signature. Then basically he also creates all the Trafer resources so that all the process from posting it to the delivery mechanism to infecting them is automated. So all this is done in the Telegram bot. So they have created a Telegram bot to automate uploads to the delivery mechanism and also receive logs into their accounts. And then they also have SEO panel to basically boost their SEO and gain like high hits on Google. And then there is log checker software. So this is a software basically used to get them to know if there is any valuable things in the log, like any cryptocurrency stored in it. That will be a high hit for them. And then basically these are used by Traffers, and then they exploit them, and then they gain access to infection logs. So these infection logs are nearly like tens to thousands per day. And those are shared with the Trafer admin back. So what happens here is these internally get exploited and then cryptocurrency gets extracted from it as they have all the details. So initial exploitation is itself done by them. And then they later again use a log checker to find the value and discard any useless logs. And then basically buyers come in here and then they both meet at a marketplace, an underground marketplace where all these infection logs are sold at $10 or $15 per log. So now this is how the Trafer ecosystem is. But then again, after the marketplace, a lot of people buy it, right? So when they buy it, they basically are funding another infection chain here. So those funds go back to their Trafer resources. So I mean, this creates a lot of noise, but then what happens, like if one command and control server is taken down, there is one more which comes up because they have unlimited money, basically. So coming to the delivery mechanism, the first one is malicious domains. So when I say malicious domains, they create fake websites, like fake domains, which are sourced in cheap domains or domain registrar, and then they basically host it behind Cloudflare so that their original IP is not revealed. And then they also use amazing templates so that when any end user who looks at that, they'll find it very legitimate. And also they detect crawling so that whenever any crawler uses or crawler visits that page, it shows it redirects them to a legitimate page, or it shows a blank page. So they do that also. And then a lot of anti-analysis techniques are employed so that the crawler or any analysis machine can't correlate a domain to a malicious it can't correlate that a domain is serving malware. And then also it mimics legitimate sites. And then if you see an interesting thing here is these domains serving malware archives. So malware archives are the malware, an archive which contains the malware, and it is encrypted basically. So that an encrypted one, even if you put it in a sandbox or VirusTotal, if it is having a good password, then it can't be marked as malicious, right? And then basically there are shorteners. So URL shorteners and redirectors. So you can see the number that there are 10. So every time when a user visits the domain and clicks on the download link, there are different number of infection chains created every time he visits. So there are like 2 different redirections happening, and then every redirection has like 10 different possibilities. So now here you can see the network capture which I did. Basically, there are multiple DGA generated domains which are basically used like very cheap, but then they also use it to redirect users between multiple random sites and then finally bring them to a download link, which they also need to copy paste it in another browser window. So what happens here, they are delinking the malicious domain to the malicious archive, so that the domain stays longer and then they gain more traffic to their malware. And then this is a very interesting thing. You guys might have known VMod if you are playing games. It basically mods games, but then it's a legal service and then it's a legitimate one. But then on the top you also can see a vSoft. So this is a website which is serving malicious software like Adobe. All these software which are served, like all these are malicious. And then the second one is called 911 infection chain. The name itself came from a proxy service called 911, which was in 2020, but then now it is taken down. Basically, this is how it goes. So this delivery mechanism is based on YouTube. So now for initially to gain access to YouTube accounts, they use targeted attacks on YouTube influencers. Like they are using YouTube since long time and then they have a lot of subscribers. So they target them with mail spam because a lot of people, if you are a YouTuber, then you'll definitely have in your about, you'll have an email where you can receive any emails for promotion or such things. Threat actors use that to target them and then basically infect them. So leading to compromise of them, and then there are a lot of people who buy these logs. So in the right side, you can see a advertisement in an underground forum where threat actors are buying information stealer logs for YouTube. So these are logs with the YouTube channels having like 10,000 to 100,000 subscribers, and then they're willing to pay how much ever they want, like it's in hundreds to thousands of dollars. And then after the source, they basically have the IP and browser cookies of the YouTube channel, like the victim who is running the YouTube channel. And then they basically use an anti-detect browser. So this is a type of browser which you basically copy the fingerprint of the victim's browser and run it as if it is a victim's browser. Why do they do that? So basically here you can see there is a proxy here. So there is a proxy there, and then there is at the bottom you can see cookies from file. So what they do, they buy a proxy which is very close by to the victim's IP address. So then they just copy paste the cookie files which was in the stealer log itself. So when I say a stealer log, it is similar to the log infection logs which were generated by the information stealer. Then after they do that, they basically gain access. I told the cheap proxy service, right? They buy a proxy which is close by to the victim's IP. Then that leads to access to their YouTube account. So this is the browser which is opened in the Mimic browser. Then they gain access to the YouTube channel. So this is the first part of it. And then basically their actual malware delivery in the YouTube starts. Now video gets posted. What kind of video gets posted? So you can see here, there is a video editing software which is posted in a channel with 120,000 subscribers. And then they basically share the link, and then what happens next? They get redirected to a download service in case this is a media file, and then they basically, it's an archive with massive compression ratio. The archive downloaded from Mediafire, if you look at it, in the bottom, the size is actually 7 MB, the original size. But then an extracted size is 820 MB. Even the best algorithms can't achieve this level of compression. So what might be the reason? They've just buffed it up with random bytes so that at initial level, when the antivirus looks at the file, it skips the initial checks of the file, like to check for malware. So that is why they do that. And then when the user gets, user is not, he won't be patient. He just double clicks it no matter what. And then they basically execute the Infostealer, which leads to data exfiltration from the victim. And then that leads to exfiltration to the C2, which happens to sale on the marketplaces again. That goes to exploitation, like as we explained before, what Traffer Groups do. And all these exploited logs again goes into the YouTube itself. So what they do to gain genuinity in the YouTube video is basically very interesting. They use YouTube videos, they post the YouTube videos, then they comment using compromised YouTube accounts so when you see a channel with 1 million subscribers and then a lot of comments which say it works in different slangs, then the victim will definitely click it, then they'll get compromised again. Then those people also will be again used into another reinfection. Then there is another delivery mechanism which is mail spam. This we haven't monitored, but then we have also known that information stealers do spread to mail spam, as we've seen in the YouTube first slide. Now, infection chains keep evolving. So this is the earlier ones are the basic ones, but then they keep evolving. YouTube doesn't sit quietly because they're a big organization and then they want to safeguard their reputation, but then they still can't stop the threat actors from evolving, right? So then to gain the increased popularity, they started using AI-generated videos, AI-generated personas, and then voiceovers so that they think that an original person is really presenting it, and then they constantly evolve. So evolving is in the sense, so we have detected that they have used something called Telegraph. So Telegraph is something like Pastebin, but by Telegram. So we have noticed that all the threat actors started to use Telegraph links in their YouTube video descriptions. But then what they did, YouTube also noticed that. So they started to make people redirect. That redirections have been stopped. Then they moved from one redirection to another redirection. So they keep changing their services. So even if you block Mediafire, who knows? They might shift into Google Drive. They might shift into GitHub. A lot of services are available for them to move. And then basically with this, they are achieving business continuity in a large scale. So they are running as a corporation itself. To run their infrastructure, they have funding, and then they deceive users into believing the content is genuine. So this happens a lot. Now let's get into some trends. So this one we have actually noticed since October of 2022. So in the first graph, you can see that it has exponentially risen, and then basically it is basically 6,000 videos per week. That is from October to February. But then in the next graph, that is really mind-blowing because it is from May to August, we have nearly seen 1 lakh videos getting, not 1 lakh, 10,000 to, that are not video count, but then the number of views the videos were able to achieve. They approximately averaged at 1 million views per week. So getting 1 million views, like you might think 1 million people might not get compromised, but then 10,000 people is enough for them. So 10,000 people per week or per day. This is one of the delivery mechanism, but then there is a lot of scope. And then basically what we did, they used automation at every point to make them stealthy, and then for them to not get detected. But then we also did some automation to get their samples which they are serving, and then basically we ran it in a sandbox, like local sandbox. The detections we received are like 80% of them weren't detected by any virus total. Like all those sandboxes which we have, those won't detect it. And then the ones which did get detected are old information stealers, which are basically used by old Traffer Groups. And then in the marketplace, if you see, the ones which are prevalent are something called Raccoon, Vidar, Redline, and Luma. So these are all families of information stealer, like different variants written in different languages with different capabilities. But then they all have one single goal, which is to steal information. And then this is one more schematic. So these are all the infection logs which are on sale across the world. Here you can see India is the highest one, then there is Brazil, then there is US. But then can anyone notice a weird thing here? Russia is the least, because these Traffer groups basically don't target Russia. If they get targeted, then Russia won't be quiet, and then they'll start operations on them. And then there are other logs. These, in total, there were nearly 7 million logs which are on sale. These doesn't contain the logs which are already purchased. So these are at the point, there are 7 million logs which were on sale. And then basically these are the ones which we had in our possession, in the sense we used it for analysis. And then there were like 400,000. These are also like same thing as before. One second. Same thing as before. It had, these are on sale, and this is on infection logs from multiple sources. So yeah. So what is the motivation behind all these threat actors? If you think about it, there is a lot of scope to earn here. So, and then they also, so all these Traffer groups, right? They also allow the users to train. So anyone can join. They'll give you a manual of how to do each thing. And then every step is automated by them. So they just need a manpower who can run the semi-automated processes. And then less knowledge around cracked software and the malware which is involved in it. So that is why they misuse that and then target those people. Now, here there is a interesting stat which is taken from one of the source which gave access to the stats of a Traffer group. So here at the top, there is a threat actor who got like 5,000 logs, like which he shared 5,000 logs. Generally speaking, each log is sold for 200 ruble, which is, I'm not sure, like $2, I guess. And then basically he sold 5,000 logs. So which translates to nearly $10,000. But then this is basic for just by selling it. The Traffer groups, they have to increase the productivity of the Traffers. They do bonuses, they do exploitation also, right? So the potential is approximately 100,000 USD per year, which is more than any starting cybersecurity guy or in the cybersecurity field what we earn. So that is why a lot of people are into it, and then it is booming right now. Now, we have talked about what their motivation is, right? So what do we do to prevent ourselves? So they are continuously evolving. So we also should continuously evolve and then invest in detection engineering. And then also we should automate detection and also the mitigations. So every time when we talk about malware, right, the one thing which comes into our mind is IoCs. But then in this case, we have seen that there are multiple infections, and then each infection chain, there might be a new malware, right? So instead of IoCs and Yara rules, which get, so for each family of malware, there could be like hundreds of Yara rules, and then there could be hundreds of signatures, which could be deemed useless if they just change like one line of code, right? So what they should do is basically, they should make their employees aware. They should also enforce multi-factor authentication and strict session limits. So even though MFA is enabled, there should be a strict session limit so that even though they get compromised, they can basically alert the user saying that someone is also logged in. And then their organizations who follow BYOD policy can basically prevent users from storing passwords in their browsers. And then basically paid software should be made available for their employees. So if a photography editor is there, he should be provided with the software which he is needed, the premium software, else he goes to crack software sites and in turn getting affected. And then yeah, if you have questions, I'm up for it. So basically each log is sold for $10 to $15 based on the quality of the log.
How many? Sorry?
$10 to $15.
$10. Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. Thank you very much for your talk. Round of applause once again.